Hey Hunter, this is lesson 25. It's going to be a piece of cake because we've talked about some of this before. So, we're going to learn about multiplying mixed numbers and multiple fractions. And we're just going to learn how to do it this like a quick and easy way, which we've talked about before, but we're going to walk through some examples and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, you ready? All right. So, let me grab um, oh boy. Hold on. I'm still working on my skill set here with my tool. So we're going to do a little magic trick and get rid of that. Okay, now this is going to be our first problem. 2 over 3 times 5 over 8. Now, of course, you know that we can go ahead and just multiply the numerator and multiply the denominator, and we get to this answer. And then, of course, we can simplify this because if we look at the end game of both of these numbers, we know that they're even, so we can always divide by 2. So we end up with 5 because we're dividing by 2, the numerator, and we're dividing by 2, the denominator, and we end up with 5 over 12, right? But instead of doing this part of the problem, at the end, we're going to do that part of the problem in the middle. Moni in the middle. Where's she at? In the middle. Go, Mo, Mo. It's the Moni in the middle. That's a really great song from back in the day. You can ask your dad about it. But instead of waiting till the end like we did over here, we're going to simplify it in the middle. That means in the middle of the problem. So we can always divide, as long as we're dividing the numerator, one of the numerators, by the same thing that we're dividing one of the denominators, we're in good shape. Good shape. And this is called canceling. So I'm going to divide this 2 by 2, which is going to give me 1. And I'm going to divide this 8 by 2, which is going to give me 4. So basically, we just divided by 2 up here. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and we divided 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So we're doing the same dividing that we did up here, but we're actually doing it in the middle of the problem. So now I can multiply, and I say 5 times 1 is 5, and 3 times 4 is 12, and there's our answer. These are the same. Just another way of simplifying before we get to the end of a problem. So let's do another one so that let me make sure that you really are understanding what we're doing. We're just simplifying in the middle of the problem, okay? So let's go to our next problem as an example. Now we're going to multiply more fractions. Instead of 2, we're going to do 3. But we're doing the same simplifying, which we've talked about before as you've been working along. We're going to do the same simplifying we did before. So this problem, first of all, we can immediately see that we have a 5 in the numerator and a 5 in the denominator. We know that 5 over 5 equals 1, right? So we can go ahead and cancel these right away, right? Because we can divide them both by 5, and that leaves us 1. And then, as we saw in the other I see another one. Here's another 3 in the numerator and a 3 in the numerator and a 3 in the denominator. So I'm going to immediately divide this by 3, and I'm going to divide this by 3, and that each leaves 1. But now I can see that these are 2 even numbers, so I can divide them by 2. So I'm going to divide the 2 by 2, which gives me 1, and I'm going to divide 8 by 2, which gives me 4. So now I have a problem that's already simplified. So when I look at this again, I have 1 over 1 times 1 over 4 times 1 over 1. And that gives me a product of 1 over 4. So of course I could have just multiplied these numbers and multiplied these numbers and then simplified, but it's so much easier when I've already simplified to get to the answer. Let me write this problem again, and we're going to do just the regular multiplication like we normally would, just so you can be sure to know that if you had just multiplied these just like we normally do without canceling, we would have ended up with the same thing. So 2 times 5 is 10, times 3 is 30. 3 times 8 is 24, and 24 times 5 is 60. Oh, excuse me, 120. 24 times 5. Well, let's double check because I seem to not have my facts together. That's 2, that's 10, that's 12. Exactly. So that's 120. I correct myself. So the first thing I can do with this problem, since I know the end game, this ends with 0, I can immediately divide this by 10 and divide this one by 10, and that gives me 3 over 12. Because when I'm dividing by 10, I just take the 0 away. And then I know that if I divide by 3, 3 divided by 3 equals 1, and 12 divided by 3 equals 4. I get the same answer that I did over here, but I was able to simplify it in the middle of the problem instead of at the end of the problem. Okay? So it's really just, it's called canceling, but it's simplifying before you get to the end of the problem. And we're going to do another one to make sure we're getting the point here. And so we're going to do it with mixed numbers. Same approach. 1 over 1 1/3 times 2 1/2 times 3 over 5. Now, one of the first things you would want to do is to change these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So we're just working with fractions versus mixed numbers. So 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. So this is 4 over 3 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. That's 5 over 2 times 3 over 5. Now, what can we get rid of right away? We can get rid of the 3's because they cancel each other out. We can get rid of the 5's because they cancel each other out. And then I can divide this by 2, which is going to give me 1, and I can divide the 4 by 2, and it gives me 2. So that leaves me with a numerators of 2 times 1 times 1. That gives me 2. And 1 times 1 times 1. That gives me 1. So my end result is 2. Now I could have just multiplied these. And let's check our work to see. So this is the improper fractions that we came up with. And here's the last thing that we're multiplying. So let's do this. 4 times 5 is 20, times 3 is 60. 3 times 2 is 6, times 5 is 30. And when I simplify that, 60, let's do that over here. 60 divided by 30 is what? 2. Our answer is 2. And they are the same. So one of them we simplified in the midst of the problem, and one of them we simplified at the end of the problem. That's the only difference we're doing here, Hunter. I think it's going to be really easy for you to do these problems. If you have any issues, give me a call, okay? Love you. Have a good time doing your math. How do I turn it off, babe?
At the very top, right?
Oh, sorry, Hunter. Couldn't figure out how to turn it off. Love you. Bye.